What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. My name is Briggs, and I have some sort of rash. I think I got into something while I was in Alaska. I don't know. I don't ever remember getting any sort of rash, ever. I mean, I'm sure I had some when I was a baby, you know, but that was it. Well, no, actually, when I was a young adult, I had an ex-girlfriend who would give me a rash every time she talked too much. Speaking of young adults, where are they all moving to these days? Where are all the new college grads setting up camp? In the last decade or so, the old go-to places that all the young people move to have fallen out of fashion. When I was younger, everyone was moving to LA, New York, San Francisco, or Miami. And then later on, they started moving to Portland, Seattle, Denver. And now those have fallen out of fashion. And why have all these cities fallen out of fashion? The main reason is price. Hardly anyone in their 20s can afford to live in these places anymore. If they are living in one of those places, something else is going on, like their family's subsidizing them, they're selling their plasma on the weekends, they've changed their name to Cinnamon and twirl on a pole for dollar bills, and some of them are probably still living in their cars and paying car insurance instead of rent. I've mentioned that before. But I actually know a guy who lived in his car in Seattle for the first 2 years out of law school. He was a lawyer with such high student loan debt that he had to live in his car. That blows. That's not the way it's supposed to be. A lot of young adults have seen the light, I guess. Living in a place that is way above your budget makes zero sense. They're spreading out across this great country searching for a better life, kind of like the Mormons back in the 1800s. It's not just one or two new places, it's a bunch. And that's what today's video is all about. So sit back and watch my top 10 places recent grads are moving to. Number 10, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Hattiesburg, Mississippi is not the first place most people would think about moving to when they're looking for a new place to live. Their population has stayed just under 46,000 residents since the 2010 census. The reason for this, older people are passing on and mostly younger people are taking their place. The average age in Hattiesburg is 34 years old. That's 4 years lower than the national average. Now, this part is amazing if you know anything about Mississippi. 36.8% of the residents in Hattiesburg have at least a bachelor's degree. That's 2% higher than the national average. Mind blown. I had to check on that stat several times to make sure I was reading it right. Then I thought I might be impaired in some manner that hasn't occurred to me yet, and I was reading things that were untrue. I checked my medication and I'm good to go. Another neat fact about Hattiesburg, the 24 to 35-year-old population was the only group that hasn't been losing people. It actually increased by 4.2% over the last 2 years. Why are young people moving here, you ask? They have jobs in Hattiesburg, and it's a dirt cheap cost of living. They're just moving there because of that. It's not like they have some crazy pub or brewery scene or music scene. No, it's just cheap to live, and I'm sure they have those things, and people are flocking there. Number 9, Killeen, Texas. Killeen, Texas is about an hour's drive north of Austin, Texas, the Texas state capital. It has just over 127,000 residents, and here it is. They call it K-Town. Holy hell, that needs to stop. If you use the first letter of whatever city or town you live in, followed by the word town, you are not original. There's at least 5 other places that use the same nickname as you. Killeen's population between 24 and 35 grew by 4.3% last year alone. That was the only age demographic above newborn that increased. The average age in Killeen is 31 years old. Why are young adults moving here? It's low cost of living, low housing costs. They also have solid schools, which is attracting young couples. You just got to worry about the heat in Killeen. Number 8, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Ah yes, Vietnam as the older sergeants used to call it. Fayetteville is right outside the gates of the Army's Fort Bragg, a place I've spent too much time at. The Ville, as others call it, has about 200,000 residents in the city and almost 400,000 in the metro area. I had a girlfriend that lived in Fayetteville. She's about 45 years old now and her name's Julie. She also might still have a tattoo on her butt that says Briggs. She was a bit of a stalker. I think a friend told her I went missing in action. Funny thing about that, we weren't even at war. She didn't get it. I don't know. Strange. Anyway, the demographic of ages 24 to 35 grew 4.7% last year alone. The average age here is 32.2 years old. Why do young adults move here? Well, some of them don't have a choice. The Army stationed them there and they have to go there. The recent grads are coming for the low cost of living. It's that simple. Number 7, Hinesville, Georgia. This is another Army town with a lot of the same things going on in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Hinesville is right outside of Fort Stewart, Georgia, and less than an hour from Savannah, Georgia. This is easily my favorite area in the South, and it's starting to catch some attention. It wasn't for a long time. People just knew it as a place outside of Fort Stewart. Now people are starting to move into that area. They don't have the best stats until you get to cost of living. It is dirt cheap here as well. Hinesville is sort of the center of Liberty County, and really all of Liberty County is starting to see a younger crowd move in. The average age here is 27 years old. That's right, 27 years old. That's a low average. Adults with a bachelor's degree is 18.9%. Now, that's not the highest until you realize 10 years ago it was about 5%. Number 6, Charlottesville, Virginia. Charlottesville, Virginia is an amazingly historic town. The city was founded in 1762 and currently has almost 44,000 residents, with almost 230 in the entire metro area. New graduates are moving to this part of Virginia at a pretty good pace. They have jobs, housing isn't crazy, and the cost of living in Charlottesville is only 14% higher than the national average. The 24 to 35 age group grew by 5.4% last year alone, and a lot of that has to do with jobs and great schools. They got really good schools in Charlottesville. Virginia saw some action during the Civil War. Charlottesville was spared the brunt of the American Civil War action. The only battle that took place in Charlottesville was a skirmish at Rio Hill, an encounter with George Armstrong Custer. Yes, that George Armstrong Custer. But Custer briefly engaged with local Confederate home guards before retreating. The mayor surrendered the city to Custer's men to keep the town from being burned. In more recent history, in August of 2017, the city was the site of a couple rallies that took a really bad turn. It's sort of left a black eye on Charlottesville. That black eye hasn't slowed down the influx of recent grads. The average age in Charlottesville right now is only 29 years old. Number 5, Fayetteville, Arkansas. If you look at Arkansas as a whole, this one seems a little odd. A majority of the state is trying to leave the state. Then you have the northwest section near Fayetteville and Rogers. Springdale also. This part of Arkansas doesn't act like the rest of Arkansas. They have jobs, educated people, nice homes for cheap. You can buy the American dream here for about $200,000. It's a nice house, backyard on a friendly street. The average age in Fayetteville is 28 years old. And last year, the young adult population grew by 5.5%, which this place is coming up. This is a place that a lot of people are looking to now as being the next Seattle, Portland, something like that. Number 4, Arlington County, Virginia. Virginia gets another one on this list. All those people that used to move to New York City after college moved to Arlington County, Virginia, it seems like. This is the first one on this list that doesn't fall into the cheap category. Actually, this place is very expensive. But if you're going to sell your soul and work in Washington, D.C. in a professional capacity, you've looked at getting a place in Arlington County, Virginia. The average age is 32.5, and in 2018, the young adult group grew by 6%. That's pretty high. When one small group, 24 to 35, grows by 6%, there's definitely a youth movement going on here. So if you want to work for the government, or especially the Pentagon, which has a very nice Taco Bell and a KFC. They have their own Taco Bell and KFC in the building. Not like most places that just have a Starbucks. They have one of those too, but they actually have their own KFC and their own Taco Bell. Amazing. If you want to work at one of those places, Arlington County is your place. Number 3, Junction City, Kansas. This is another Army town that has seen an influx of college grads. Junction City has lost about 1,000 people since the 2010 census, 23,000 to 22,000. The thing is this, the only group that grew was the 24 to 35 age group. The average age is 26 in Junction City. That's really low. It's actually 11 years younger than the national average. Again, a lot of people are in the military, but recent grads have been filtering in for a couple years now. In 2010, only 13% of the residents had a bachelor's degree. Currently, it's about 23%. Just last year alone, the 24 to 35 age group grew by 6.3%. And that's a lot of people, a lot of young people. This Junction City may alarm most people. You're probably thinking, what has gone wrong with American youth to make them consider Kansas as a place to move to? I've been to Fort Riley. I went outside the main post twice in 6 months. 6 months I was there, I went out twice. Each time, I got outside the gate, looked around and thought, well, that was a complete waste of time, and went back in. Like I said, the average age here currently is 26 years old. That's young. Number 2, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee is one of the only places in Wisconsin you'll find a lot of crime. The good news is it's trending down. What hasn't caught up with that trending down statistic is the cost of living and housing prices. Both are still really low. Approximately 18% of the population is in its 20s in Milwaukee. The city also ranks high for both its concentration of bars and its concentration of dining establishments. Eat and drink in Milwaukee is like an extreme sport. These people drink a ton of beer and they eat a scary amount of meat, like sausages and bratwurst and knotwurst, all that stuff. It's they go heavy. The average age in Milwaukee is 26, and that 24 to 35-year-old group grew by 7% last year alone. Wisconsin leads the country in a strange stat. They have the least amount of outward migration by recent grads in the whole country. Like all 50 states, they have the least amount of grads leaving the state with their degrees. I think they lead in just low youth migration in general. People like it there. It's a great state. They want to stay, and they want to stay close to their family. You just got to get past the cold. Whew, they get some cold winters. And number 1, Cincinnati, Ohio. Shocker, right? Most people never would have seen this one coming. Cincinnati, Ohio is the top spot for new college grads. The main reason Cincinnati is number 1 is its affordability. Cost of living here is very low. Crime in some areas is a little high, but if you got a low cost of living, that's to be expected. It's like all American cities. Another contributing factor is the monthly median rent is only $580 a month. That's like unheard of in any other city almost. And I'm sure someone's going to pull something out of like Olathe, Kansas. They're only paying like $420. You're in Olathe, Kansas, so yeah. This relative affordability makes it easier for you to pay off student loans and look ahead for other financial goals like getting your first mortgage, and then hopefully foreclosing and getting another one later on down the line. Sometimes you might need a bankruptcy lawyer, but that's okay. If you're in Cincinnati, you're probably going to find like-minded individuals to help you keep on track. Just over 22% of the population is in their 20s. That's pretty low, and so what a lot of people are noticing about Cincinnati, 20-year-olds are everywhere. Nobody likes to see that. Bunch of happy, optimistic people wearing leggings everywhere. It's horrible. I saw a video, actually, that this guy did about young people migrating to Cincy. And one of the people he talked to was a woman and her husband. I'd say they're in their 50s and they were at a mall or something. And he was asking them about that and if they've noticed it, and they had. And then this woman goes on this tangent about all these young kids are destroying the culture of Cincinnati. Her husband is sitting next to her on this bench and he's just kind of shaking his head in agreement, just kind of calmly. Then she blurts out all these young girls wearing yoga and workout pants all over the place. It's just tacky. Her husband leans towards the camera and said, "I'm okay with that one." And he winks. It was perfect. It was almost like it was set up, but I guess it wasn't. It was great. Anyway, the 24 to 35 age group grew by 7.3% last year. Cincinnati seems to be a hotspot for young people, and it's pretty much all price. You can live there pretty cheap, and you're in, I'd say, a medium-sized city. I mean, it's got a baseball team and a football team, so it's got something going on there. Alright, so that's my top 10 places young people and graduates are moving to. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget all the links below. Buy yourself a t-shirt. That would be fabulous. Help support the channel. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.